so there's a subtraction sign. So instead of having one term, how many terms are in my numerator? 2, and in my denominator as well. So I have a binomial in my numerator and a binomial in my denominator, okay? Mission, what is the greatest common factor between 8 and 28? What number do they have in common? What can I take out of 8 and 28? 4? Is that what you said? Yeah. Okay, so we can take out the number 4. Is there anything else common to both 8AB and 28A? Is there anything else they have in common? Vicky? A, good. So the greatest common factor is 4A. That's how we factor. Now, that's the greatest common factor. Inside the brackets, I'm going to put the leftovers. 8AB divided by 4A is going to give me 2B. And 28A divided by 4A is going to give me the number -7. Okay, can someone tell me what the greatest common factor between 42A and 12AB? What do they have in common? 6, and what's the letter that's in common? A, good. Very good, Vicky. And so we're over here, we're left with 7 minus 2B, because 42A divided by 6A is 7. Negative 12AB divided by 6A is going to give you negative 2B. Okay, so I have a very important question for you. Is 2B minus 7 the same as 7 minus 2B? No, it's different, right? Because here the 7 is negative, and over here the 7 is positive. On the numerator, the 2B is positive, and in the denominator, negative 2B is negative, right? So many times I see kids saying, oh, it's the same thing, so I'm just going to switch them around. But you have to be very careful. If they're similar like this, and you do want to play with them, switch them around, what we can do is, if I make my 4A a negative, if we make that negative 4A, I can switch my signs inside the binomial. So if we're making this negative 4A, and pay attention, that negative, so instead of 2B minus 7, I now have negative 2B plus 7. Negative 2B plus 7. And the denominator can stay the same, but I'm just going to shuffle it around a little. So instead of 7 minus 2B, it's going to be negative 2B plus 7. Okay. Now that it's factored, before I actually solve, I'm going to state the restrictions, because this is my original question in completely factored form. So before I go to find my final answer, I'm going to state restrictions. And this is the proper way to state restrictions. We're going to take each term. So first of all, I have the 6A. So I know that 6A cannot be equal to 0. 6A cannot be equal to 0. And now I have to try to isolate my A. How am I going to isolate my A? What do I have to divide both sides by, Rakshana? Good. So if I divide both sides by 6, what is 0 divided by 6? It's still 0. So that means that A cannot be equal to 0. That's my first restriction. The second restriction is 2B, negative 2B plus 7 cannot be equal to 0. And slowly but surely, I'm going to isolate to find the restriction on the letter there, B. So if negative 2B cannot be equal to negative 7, that means B cannot be equal to negative 7 divided by negative 2 is positive 7 over 2. So those are my two restrictions. Now that I've stated the restrictions, we can go on with solving the question. If we both remember the last step, cancel out terms that are common to both. What are common to both my numerator and my denominator? What do they have in common? Jensen, what do you think? What do they have in common, the numerator and the denominator? Good, so I can cancel that out. What else do they have in common? Yep. Yeah, they have two A's. We can cancel that out. So I'm left with negative 4 over 6, which can be reduced to negative 2/3. And that's your final answer. Now, if I stated the restrictions just on my final answer, are there any letters in my final answer? No. So you would write, oh, there are no restrictions for this question, but that is not true. Because if A is equal to 0, just to really drive this concept home, if A were to be equal to 0, or if B were to be equal to 7 over 2, and we plug those numbers into the equation, your machine would break down. The whole question wouldn't work anymore. So if you're selling this machine or this equation to someone, and you say, oh, it's always going to work, they're going to come back a week later and return the equation, because they're going to tell you it doesn't work when A is equal to 0 and B is equal to 7 over 2. So even though that's a little analogy for you, just remember, restrictions are the numbers that cause your equation to break down and have the denominator be equal to 0. Okay, does that make sense to everyone? So always repeat that to yourself, because you're going to be stating restrictions on every single question. Okay, it gets more complicated than this, but nothing you haven't done before. So we have a trinomial, and a difference of squares question. Guess what? You have to factor all of them. Okay, so with the person sitting next to you, use trial and error, not difference of squares situation. It's also the easiest thing to factor. X plus 4, x minus 4. So for every single question, I'm looking for two binomials. Factor, factor, factor. So efficient. Okay, who knows 4x squared plus 8x plus 3? What does that factor to? 4x squared plus 8x. Tryon. Yep. Good. See some experts in trial and error. Okay, 2x squared plus 7x plus 3. That's a different part of the room, because those guys seem to have figured this out. What does it factor to? Anyone back there? Trial and error? Come on, guys. Does anyone know? 2x squared plus 7x plus 3. That's an easy question. Yep. Close. There's an x plus 3. And there's 2x plus 1. But good try. Okay. So this is where people lose marks. So watch the board right now. They tell me, oh, okay, I'm just going to cancel things out, and they forget to, remember, this is still the original question. It's just in factored form. So right away, before I go to try to solve my answer, I need to state the restrictions. Am I going to state the restrictions on the numerator? No, just the denominator, just all the terms in the denominator, because we cannot have our denominator be equal to 0. So I don't want anyone writing down right now. I want all eyes on the board, because everyone needs to know how to state restrictions. And I'm going to go fast. 2x plus 3 cannot be equal to 0. That means that 2x cannot be equal to negative 3. That means x cannot be equal to negative 3 over 2. All I'm doing is simple grade 9 algebra to isolate my x. Next term, 2x plus 1 cannot be equal to 0. 2x cannot be equal to negative 1. X cannot be equal to negative 1/2. You guys understand what I'm doing? There's no confusion? Okay, you can start writing. X plus 4 cannot be equal to 0. X cannot be equal to negative 4. X minus 4 cannot be equal to 0. X cannot be equal to positive 4. So in total, I have 4 binomials in my denominator, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4 restrictions. So those 4 restrictions are worth half a mark each on your test.